I was debating doing this video all day. No, actually, I've been dead set on making this video for at least a month. Several years ago, I made a brief series of videos discussing channels that I enjoyed as a child that I no longer enjoy now, like Annoying Orange, Fred, Onision, ugh. I think I even made a video talking about how I enjoyed Smosh's content when I was a kid as well, but there is one glaring omission from that series. There was another channel that I liked as a kid that I very much do not like now, and I also don't like the person behind the channel, and that channel was, and is, OriginalBloodAce. Now, you might be rolling your eyes and saying, why the fuck are you talking about this guy in the year 2025? Well, it's pretty undeniable that this guy's channel is pretty significant to my channel's history, and I made so many videos hating on the guy back in the day, and I never really talked about why I liked his content in the first place. And I remember someone telling me a few months ago that June 13th of this year, the day this video is being uploaded, marks 10 years since I uploaded my first hate video, quote-unquote, on OriginalBloodAce. And that was also the video that kickstarted my one-sided, pathetic feud with him that he barely acknowledged outside of some snide remarks he would make with his fans. Like, why should I care about what this douchebag has to say? I'm relevant and he's not, which, I mean, I had 500 subscribers at the time of his disappearance, and he had 1,500, and despite the 1,000 sub difference between our channels, he was pulling in around the same amount of views I was. So in the grand scheme of things, he was just as irrelevant as I was, and still am. Anyway, I'll rip this off like a band-aid. If you know who this guy was, you likely already know what happened to him, but if you don't know who this guy was, and you weren't around back in the Meiverse days, and you found me through my recent content like the YouTube drama stuff or the political videos, and never bothered to look at my back catalog, which I don't blame you, this guy was arrested for possessing at least hundreds of gigabytes worth of child pornography. Spoiler alert, I know. So this video isn't only going to serve as me reminiscing about a channel I enjoyed as a kid, but also a cautionary tale of sorts. I may talk a little bit more about his arrest at the end of this video, but if you want a more general rundown on this guy's channel and more details surrounding his arrest, someone made a documentary video essay thing about him a few years ago that I'll link in the description. Anyway, in Christmas of 2012, I got a Wii U, and one of the online features that came with the Wii U was a family-friendly social media app made by Nintendo called Meiverse. It was one of my first forays into social media. Well, I had a YouTube channel at the time that no one watched, barring Tom and Jerry episodes I would upload onto the channel. And I uploaded my own horrible flip notes onto Flipnote Antenna on the DSi back in the day as well. Anyone remember that, by the way? But Meiverse was the first social media app that I had any real following on. Now, for the first year or so of me posting onto Meiverse, this wasn't the case. I would only upload, like, screenshots from games I was playing and mundane shit like that. But then, around, I'd say, July or August of 2013, I decided to look up Meiverse videos on YouTube. This was also when GigaGamB, a fairly popular Meiverse YouTuber back in the day, first started uploading his worst posts on Meiverse series. I remember watching the first installment of that series back when it had, like, maybe 200 views, and I think that was the first bit of Meiverse content I had seen on YouTube. But there were other videos that caught my eye, videos that usually had OBA rant at the beginning of the title, and I was wondering, what could there possibly be to rant about when it comes to Meiverse? Because again, I was only uploading harmless, mundane shit onto Meiverse at the time, like screenshots from games, and using Meiverse, I suppose, the correct way, so I wasn't having any run-ins with the admins yet, aside from them marking some of my posts as spoilers, which was just whatever, because there were no penalties provided for people who would mistakenly not label their post as spoilers if their post did contain spoilers for a game. But I watched some of OBA's videos, and his Meiverse rant videos were usually just him complaining about a post of his that was taken down or getting a 2-week ban, and at the time I was like, yeah, I can perfectly understand why this guy would be angry. His posts were taken down for no good reason, and he was receiving bans for no good reason. Or so I thought at the time. I binged some of his Meiverse videos before making this video, and yeah, I can see why he got a lot of his posts and comments taken down. He frequently got into arguments with people on Meiverse, and he would often say, not very nice things to the people he was arguing with. Like, one report he would harp on a lot back in the day was, "I got a comment of mine taken down for hateful or bullying content because I told this guy he had atrocious spelling." Isn't that so fucking ridiculous? What's so offensive about that, dude? The person you were arguing with could have been ESL, or a child, which was probably more than likely the case. And this was also what a lot of his Meiverse videos would consist of. Him arguing with either very obvious trolls or literal children. Bear in mind, this dude was already 22 years old when he started making these Meiverse videos. Now, at the time, I didn't think about how frankly pathetic it was that a grown-ass man was arguing with literal children on a social media app that was catered to kids. At the time, I thought what he was doing was so cool. Hell yeah, this guy is destroying trolls and destroying stupid children with facts and logic. And what drew me into his content above all else was I was a kid who didn't like to consider himself to be like all the other kids. I had different interests. I didn't like a lot of the same music, shows, games that a lot of other kids liked at the time. A lot of my middle school dismissed Nintendo as the video game company that makes baby games, and this annoyed me to no fucking end, and I felt like I was above all those other stupid kids enjoying their stupid shooter games. Basically, I felt like I was so special for having mildly different interests than most other kids in my middle school. Whoop-de-shit. So it was cathartic for me at the time to watch this guy argue with kids who seemed not very different from the kids I had to encounter at my school. And also, I just really enjoyed rant videos in general at the time. I watched people like The Archfiend and Undertaker Freak 1127 back then, both of whom I still watch to this day and still enjoy for the most part. But they didn't really scratch the same itch that OBA did. They didn't tap into that frustration I had with a lot of other kids regarding their attitudes surrounding Nintendo. So I would say for a time that OBA was my favorite YouTuber. I would watch his videos religiously. Not even just his Meiverse stuff, but also his gaming news videos and his gaming rants that didn't pertain to Meiverse. And admittedly, his content did help me break out of my shell a little bit when it came to how I conduct myself online, at least. I started to get more argumentative on Meiverse and make posts about things that I hate and things that annoy me. Now, there were quite a few people who didn't like this and were like, "Dude, why do you always talk about shit you don't like?" But at the same time, there were people who did like these posts and followed me and started interacting with me regularly, and that's when I began building my own following on Meiverse. Now, I was never hot shit on Meiverse. I only had around, I think, 600 followers before my first Meiverse profile got permabanned. But this was still significant to me because I never had any sort of following anywhere. Like I said, I had a YouTube channel that no one watched. I had an account on Flipnote Atena that also had no one watching it. So I do have OBA's videos to thank for that boost in confidence. Anyway, back to OBA. It came to a point where his second Meiverse profile was permanently banned, and I'm sure everyone who is watching this who is familiar with him remembers how he raged the fuck out over that. Some kid named Xavier false reported him, and he proceeded to make a video screaming at the top of his lungs, saying he was gonna beat the shit out of this kid and kill him. I watched this video the other night, and it was somehow even more cringe-inducing than I remember it being. But he also verbatim said, "Your life will be banned," which I kinda like that. I think I'll start using that myself. And of course, when I saw this video, I didn't think how pathetic it was that, again, a 22-year-old man is making a video screaming at the top of his lungs towards a kid who false reported him on a kid-friendly social media app and saying that he's gonna beat this kid up and kill him. No, I was like, hell yeah, that's what this kid deserves for being an annoying little shit. OBA then makes a third Meiverse account, and this is when I actually start talking with OBA. Up until this point, I would just watch his videos and not comment on them, and lurk his Meiverse profiles and not engage with any of his posts, because honestly, I was a little intimidated. He was a YouTuber I really liked. I didn't want to inadvertently say anything that would piss him off or rub him the wrong way, because even back then I knew he was a very irritable person, but I finally mustered up the courage to comment under one of his posts, and the first time I ever engaged with him was me alerting him of an imposter I came across that called themselves Sun Nindragon, which Nindragon was what OBA initially went by on Meiverse, and said that they're Nindragon's son, which I knew was a load of bullshit. I remember writing something like, this guy claims that he's your son, and I put the word son in quotes, signifying that I know that OBA doesn't really have a son or any child in real life. And then I remember I got a bunch of OBA fans replying to me saying, OBA doesn't have a son, and I was like, yeah, I know he doesn't have a son, that's why I put the word son in fucking quotes. I didn't actually write that, you couldn't even curse on Meiverse, and I just ignored them. But then OBA himself replied to me. He also said, I don't have a son, but I think he also wrote, thanks for letting me know. And I remember I was like, holy shit, OBA replied to me. This was really the first time I had interacted with a content creator I enjoyed, so this was significant to me. I talk like the dude had like 1 million subscribers at the time, but in reality he only had like, I think, probably 300. But it didn't matter to me because I was still over the moon, as pathetic as that is to admit. He even referenced this imposter in one of his future Meiverse ban videos, and I was like, hey, I brought this imposter to his attention, and now he's mentioning it in a video. He then said, I don't have a kid, I fucking hate kids, which... ironic now. At the time, he was getting a lot of trolls making Meiverse profiles impersonating him, and instead of ignoring this and laughing it off, he made video after video ranting about these imposters. Every time a new imposter would pop up, he would make a video alerting his fan base about a new imposter. And once again, it didn't at all occur to me how pathetic it was that a grown-ass man is making video after video ranting about some annoying kids trying to get a rise out of him. A lot of these imposter accounts were from the UK, and he was like, I used to be kinda neutral on the UK, but now I fucking hate the UK, I hate the people who live in the UK, all because some select few kids in the UK decided to troll him, or, let's be real here, it was more likely one kid in the UK making multiple impersonation accounts. And speaking of his xenophobia, he had a raging, throbbing hate boner for the United States. He despised this country, he despised the people who live in this country. Now, to be fair, I don't like a lot of people in this country either, but I would say my reasons for not liking this country differ quite a bit from his reasons for not liking this country. He seemed to be a pretty hardcore Canadian nationalist who would always talk about how Canada is either one of the very, very few good countries in this planet, or the only good country in this planet. So that's why I always felt like I had to walk on eggshells whenever I talked to OBA, because one, he would always talk about hating kids, which I was a kid at the time, and I'm an American, born and raised in NYC, which I'm pretty sure is a city he said he fucking hates at one point, so that was another strike against me, in his eyes, I'm sure. There was also one time where he was arguing with another obvious troll on Meiverse, and then he went on this person's profile, and it said that they resided in Ireland, and OBA said something like, oh, this person is Irish, no wonder their IQ is low. Which I suppose is yet another strike against me, because I have quite a bit of Irish blood. So I really wanted to make sure that OBA saw me as one of the good ones, a good kid, a good American, and I don't believe I ever talked with OBA about being part Irish, so whatever on that front. I turned 13 in 2014, I was still very much crazy about his videos, and by that point, his third Meiverse profile got a permanent ban. He's professed at several times at this point that he's done with Nintendo, done with Meiverse, but he just keeps crawling back to the site. He made another Meiverse profile called I'm Sad or something like that, which didn't last very long. He deleted that account on his own accord. I remember talking to him quite a bit on that account as well, but I don't remember what we said to each other because obviously the posts he made on that account are lost to time. And then he made one final Meiverse profile, OBA Dragon, which is where I spoke to him the most on Meiverse. I remember one time I brought up that I started watching him in the summer of 2013, and then a few other fans started talking about when they first found his channel and what was their first video they saw by him. And then he was like, you know what, this gives me a good idea for a new Meiverse post. I'm gonna ask my fans when they first started watching me. And I was like, wow, I inspired OBA to make a new Meiverse post. So fucking pathetic and parasocial in hindsight. I speak about him like he was a fucking cult leader back then, but honestly, I think that's how he kinda wanted to be viewed as. He called his fan base the OBA Army, and first off, I hate when whenever content creators give their fan bases these dumb fucking names. It's just stupid parasocial tripe. And he would always put himself on this pedestal and say shit unironically like, I'm a god, I can do anything better than anyone. And I remember him saying something along these lines in one of his Meiverse rant videos. I hate kids, but the kids in my audience are an exception. They like me, so they clearly have good taste in people. He didn't like it whenever any fan would disagree with him. He would block that fan and excommunicate them from the OBA army, so basically, he wanted his fan base to be a monolith that nodded and agreed with everything he fucking said. And it was kinda easy of him to achieve this with his audience because he made his name off of making rant videos on a kid-friendly social media app on a Nintendo console, so naturally a lot of kids gravitated towards his content and predominantly made up his audience. Now, I'm 24. I am now older than he was when he started making his Meiverse videos. Jesus fucking Christ. But when it comes to talking to kids online, yeah, no thank you. I have no business talking to any child who is a stranger. I would say anyone under the age of probably 16, I have no interest and business speaking to. I most certainly do not want anyone under that age joining my Discord server. But this guy was already in his 20s when he started making his Meiverse videos, and he was on the regular interacting with kids who were around my age, 12 and 13, and hell, I would often see kids even younger than that interacting with him. Kids who are 9 or 10 years old. I know the age demographic who watches my content are people who are primarily around my age. People in their early to mid-20s, or maybe at the youngest in their late teens. Or hell, I've seen some commenters mention that they're in their late 20s or even their 30s, and that's perfectly fine. I'm a grown adult. And naturally, the videos I make today are going to, by and large, appeal to other adults. But if at age 24 my videos were mostly attracting kids, I would without a fucking doubt feel very uncomfortable and definitely second guess myself before interacting with my audience. Because again, I am a grown adult. I have no business speaking to other people's children online. But OBA, on the other hand, just happily engaged with minors online on a daily basis for 3 years. Eventually, his OBA Dragon account got banned. It never received a permaban, but at that point, he was at his wit's end with Meiverse. He made a Meiverse post right before the ban announcing that he is retiring from Meiverse. He even made a video saying he's done with Meiverse, and I thought for sure, like all the other times he said he was done with Meiverse, he would end up just crawling back anyway. But no, he actually stuck to his word, and for the remainder of his online presence, he never posted onto Meiverse again. This brought about a bit of a conundrum for me, because I didn't have a YouTube channel at this time, because my previous YouTube channel kinda got shit-canned, and so Meiverse was my only means of contact with OBA. And so I created a new YouTube channel, or so I thought. I used an old AOL email that I was still using at the time in 2014 to create a new YouTube channel, and then YouTube told me there was already an account associated with this email, and then I found out this channel exists, and I apparently created it in 2010. And so I logged into this channel and began commenting under OBA's videos. And you can still see all of the comments I left under OBA's videos, and it was all just me sucking his ass and agreeing with everything he says. I mean, fuck, there were even certain instances where I would change my opinion on certain issues just because of OBA. Like region locking, for example. I hated region locking back then. Obviously, I hate region locking now. But OBA had no issue with region locking because his rationale was, why would I buy a Japanese game, for example, if I don't know Japanese? So therefore, I have no problem with region locking. Which is just a stupid fucking argument and crumbles even with like 2 seconds of critical thinking. But since OBA had that position, I adopted that position as well. Or Nintendo's 2014 E3 Direct. I thought it was okay when I watched it. OBA thought it was amazing, and so I had to change my opinion and think it was amazing as well. Again, I treated him like he was a fucking cult leader. Holy fucking shit. Eventually, I began uploading my own videos onto this channel, and they were very clearly inspired by OBA. I showed off reports I thought were stupid at the time, and in my earliest videos I didn't even rant, I just growled at the camera. But whether I'd like to admit it or not, he was my main inspiration to create videos on this channel. So even though the dude very clearly had serious issues, was very unlikable, and is a sex offender on top of all of that, I do have him to thank for that. If it were not for him, I probably wouldn't be doing YouTube right now, or at the very least, I wouldn't have a channel with over 7,000 subscribers, more than likely. Or who knows if I would have any type of audience, because I don't know if I would be making the videos I make now if it weren't for him. Also, around the time I started making content, I finally gathered up the courage to send him a friend request, which he accepted, and me and him actually did DM a few times on Meiverse, and admittedly all of our conversations were pretty cordial. I initiated all of the conversations, and they usually just consisted of talking about his latest video, and I would usually say, I watched your latest video and I agree, or you brought up an interesting point at this part of the video, and he would usually say, cool, thank you, and maybe a brief conversation would spark from there, but nothing really interesting happened in these DM conversations. Though I have heard some OBA horror stories from some other people throughout the years, like for example a friend of mine, Nicole, who was best known as Darkscythe here on YouTube, may she rest in peace by the way. And you may remember her as Ventus. She made many cameos in OBA's Meiverse videos. I remember her telling me in a call on Discord a few years ago, and she has publicly disclosed this before, that she was once in a voice call with OBA, and he mentioned at one point that he was gonna watch porn and jack off, and she was a minor at this time, by the way, and she was able to actually hear audio from the porn he was watching, and she said that the person in the porn he was watching sounded suspiciously young, which, considering what happened to him, you can draw your own conclusions from there. But me, on the other hand, no, I don't have any such story to share, thank God. The last, I guess, significant thing to happen before I renounced my support of OBA was when I revealed my face on this channel, and yes, there was a time when my face was a mystery. Maybe it should have stayed a mystery. But yeah, in January of 2015, I did a face reveal that is still up on this channel, and OBA commented under that face reveal. Not what I expected, but it never is it? LOL. Honestly, to me, you look about 17. I'm horrible at guessing ages, though you probably told me before. I bet my video will have the reverse effect, though, where people will be like, you look too young to be 24. Now, at the time, as you could imagine, I was over the moon. Holy shit, OriginalBloodAce commented under a video of mine. I think a friend of mine I talked to on Meiverse, who was also a friend of his, told him about my face reveal, and evidently he was interested in seeing it, hence this comment. But honestly, reading this comment now as an adult, plus with the hindsight of what happened to him, it really reads like he was expressing disappointment that I looked older than I really was. I was 13 going on 14 when I uploaded this video, and for all I fucking know, the dude had perverse thoughts about me and what he thought I looked like. And then when he saw what I actually looked like, he was like, he looks much older than he really is. That's disappointing. And that's why I say this video partially serves as a cautionary tale, because I was a kid, enamored by this guy's videos. While behind the scenes, he was jerking it to child sexual abuse material. Like I said, besides this slightly creepy comment he posted under my face reveal, all of my interactions with him were pretty normal. He never tried to creep on me or groom me. But the fact that I was in a position where that could have easily happened, and who knows how I would have even handled that situation back then if it did happen, just disturbs me to no end and has taught me a very valuable lesson. You can never fully trust who you're talking to, online or real life. And this doesn't just apply to kids. You can be a grown adult and put your trust in someone who you think is a good person when they're really not. This world is fucking scary. So after my face reveal, I was only a fan of him for a few months more. And honestly, my interest in him was kind of tapering off. I was 14, I was about to finish middle school and move on to high school. My interest in Meiverse in general was waning. I was getting older and my interests were changing, and I was kind of starting to see his Meiverse videos for what they really were. A grown-ass man raging over a children's social media app. He made some really dumb videos in that time span as well that didn't help matters, like for example, he made a series of videos freaking out over Nintendo entering the mobile game market. He proclaimed, "This is it, this is the death of Nintendo," which is funny because in the grand scheme of things, their mobile division ended up amounting to nothing. He also made a video about Breath of the Wild, which was known as Zelda U at the time, getting delayed to 2016, in which he cursed out how new Numa, and acted like a spoiled child throwing a tantrum. Nintendo promised me that this game will come out in 2015, and now they're breaking that promise. Boo-hoo. And in general, anti-OBA sentiment was growing. More and more people were saying, yeah, I'm not really a fan of this guy anymore, he's an asshole. People made videos at the time talking about how much of an asshole he was, most notoriously Marcus, or MXT, whatever you want to call him. Oh, Jesus Christ, that guy. He made a video raging over OBA blocking him, which, to be fair, if I had someone like Marcus commenting under my videos, I would block them with no hesitation as well. And there were some other videos made that are lost to time now, like someone sharing an exchange they had with OBA where they argued with him regarding his position on Majora's Mask. He didn't like Majora's Mask all that much, and this person was defending the game, and then eventually OBA blocked that person and said they are no longer part of the OBA army. Sacrilege, I know, but I've never liked Majora's Mask as much as most people as well, but I would never block someone over a differing opinion on a fucking video game. And I think I commented under the video saying something like, yeah, I'm a fan of OBA, but it's bullshit that he blocked you over something as trivial as this. There was also another video made by someone else who I completely forget the name of, but I remember this person used to be a regular commenter under OBA's videos, and they made a video rescinding their support of OBA. And this person aired out legitimate grievances. This person is a xenophobic asshole, he thinks too highly of himself, and this video was significant to me for the fact that it was the only negative video made about OBA that wasn't made by some obvious troll that OBA himself commented on, at least to my knowledge, and OBA just wrote something like dumbass troglodyte or something stupid like that, and I read that thinking, really, this dude has legitimate criticisms levied against you, and that's really all you're gonna fucking comment? And of course, my breaking point was his rant video where he talked about Ryu entering Smash Bros. He never provided a legitimate reason as to why Ryu doesn't belong in Smash Bros. And he said that he wishes for permanent wrist injury on Sakurai for adding Ryu in Smash Bros. And so I made my video renouncing my support of OBA, and that's when my anti-OBA crusade began. And I already made a whole video reflecting on that some years ago, and I watched that video recently, and I stand by pretty much everything I said in that video. So I have no reason to reflect on that again, though I will say, if OBA was still on YouTube, let's say he was never a pedophile, or hell, maybe he just never got caught and all of us were none the wiser, I probably would issue out some kind of apology to him for that. I mean, I would still think what he said was disgusting, and I would still think a lot of the things he said in his old Meiverse videos were disgusting, but I had no reason to make so many videos in such a short span of time about not liking the guy anymore. I made my point clear in the initial video. I don't like OBA anymore. I'm renouncing my support of OBA. I even said in the video, now that I got this off my chest, I have no reason to talk about OBA again on this channel. But for some reason I didn't stick to that. And not like those videos did anything. He had his own fan base, I had my own fan base, hell, we had quite a bit of overlap between our fan bases at the time. Sure, there were some converts here and there, but all in all, it was just a stupid waste of time that OBA himself hardly acknowledged. And with all of that said, yeah, I used to adore the content made by a pedophile when I was a kid. A pedophile that I used to interact with quite a bit when I was a kid. And that will never cease to disturb me to the core. I did not expect this video to be this long. Jesus Christ, almost a half hour. This should serve as red meat to those who still really care about this guy for some reason. And unless for some goddamn reason he returns to YouTube one day on his OriginalBloodAce channel, this is probably the final video I will ever make about this guy on my channel. The scary thing is, though, what if he is still making videos on YouTube, but we just don't know? He's on a completely different channel, maybe he makes videos in all text, or maybe he's using a voice changer. He only got an 18-month sentence in prison. His probation ended a few years ago, so he's free to use the internet unrestricted, presumably. And that's assuming he didn't violate his probation. We may never know. And that's an ominous enough note to end this video off with. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.